All right, I'm here with Amy Marks, and we are here to talk about Advancing Prefab, which is almost here. So excited. So, Amy, what year, how many times have you been to Advancing Prefab?
I've been with the show actually since its inception. I think this is our 7th year actually. And, it started with, I want to say we had only, over 200 225 participants the first year. And I think they were mostly MEP trade contractors that year. And now I think last year we had over 1,200 attendees. So like this year it'll be even bigger, I'm sure. But it's just grown in such a big way over the last, 6 or 7 years. Incredible. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love the energy there when I'm at Advancing Prefab. It's always been a show that we've wanted to be a part of, and it's really pushing the industry forward. Kind of going back, what made you want to get involved with Advancing Prefab when it first started?
I mean, to be honest, I think, I've been working with Hanson Wade on it for so many years. I want to say, I think the first year they were like, hey, we're doing this show. And I was like, wait, what? And I was like, that's my style. I'm really interested in that. And like, we started talking, and then it ended up that year I was the ambassador or the chairman. I don't know if I had the title ambassador. I think I was the chairman and the curator of the content that year. I think that's how it started, actually. But I just heard about it, and I was like, wait a minute, I have got to be a part of this, especially in the United States, because there was nothing like it in the United States at all. And I just remember thinking, like, I have to do it. Like, it's just whatever we have to figure out to do, I've got to be involved. I remember, like, it's just that sense of urgency around the concept.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I've also heard from contractors that this is like one of the Amy Marks shows. Like, that you're always, so it's cool that you've been associated with that. So,
yeah, I call it, by the way, I call it my church. I'm like, I go to church for this 1 week. It's like, this is like where I pray to the gods of like industrialized construction for an entire week. And like, it's just, for me, it's like Mecca for the week. I get to go. It's so awesome. It's like I just get so pumped up for it every year. So yeah.
That's amazing. So what are some of the top goals and initiatives for this year at Advancing Prefab?
I don't think it's any different than it's ever been. I think we always have the goal that we want people to do business at this show. Of all the shows that I go to, I think, again, like I do about 50 or 60 shows a year. And I think our number one goal at this show is you want to meet people to do business with. You want to figure out who the great subcontractors are, who the great GCs are, who the best owners are that are working out there, what the latest and greatest technology is out there. I think that's always been our number one goal, no matter what. And then I would say, second, we really want people to learn. It's like I used to say in the beginning, I'm like, I don't want to sit there and listen to case studies where I want to rip my ears off because I'm like, I just can't hear one awesome success story after another that we know aren't real. Like we want to really learn about what goes well, what doesn't happen. I'll never forget in the first year we had like an almost all out brawl. I always say the show has taken on my personality since year one, but we had like an almost all out verbal brawl the first year between like a mechanical contractor and a GC talking about how come you don't carry the structure in your number for the racks, and like it went back and forth, and like everyone got into this big argument, like real great conversation. We came to some conclusions, but it's like the show has always had this like honesty about it, where like people will literally point to pictures and be like, what's the fastener on that? And people will answer, and they'll like, so it's like, I think the second thing is that it's got this honest authenticity for learning about the good and the bad, the challenges and the successes. And I would say like, the third thing the show always looks for is we really just want to push the envelope. I think at that show, you hear about things you've never heard at another show before. I think you're meeting people that you can't meet at other shows. I've always said, like, the homework is you've got to meet 5 great people there. And year after year, people come up and tell me, like, who they met last year and how much business it brought them. So it's really those 3 things that I think make this show completely different than any other show that's out in the world, literally.
Yeah, I would agree. It is so tailored to MEP contractors that are looking to do more prefab. I mean, you can't get any more niche than that. So it's
It's so good. I mean, listen, I love MEP Force. You know, that might be my second favorite show because it's like also my show. I don't know, it's a top two. But I think it, and again, like we wouldn't have this show without the MEP contractors. They made this show what it is. They're actually, I would say now, the last time I looked, they're about 50% of the audience that are there just because the audience has grown so much. Like it's got big owners, it's got big GC. Every big GC is bringing like droves of people. I mean, big owners are coming, the big zero owners. We're really pushing to get more architects and engineers there like we have in the past year, a year or two. But like, honestly, the core of this show, the heart and soul of this show has always been the MEP contractor.
Yep. Yep. I agree. Yeah, and moving to, what would you say are the biggest challenges that MEP contractors are facing in 2023?
So I know, it's funny. I walked up. This is true. This was a story at MEP Force, actually. I was at MEP Force about to walk into the lunch. And somebody stopped me and they said, "Hey, I saw you talk in 2018 and said we've got to get into prefabrication. You were right, and we have." Now, what he said to me was, "We're getting a lot of drawings." And they were a big contractor, by the way. And he said, "We're getting a lot of drawings where some of these like areas are boxed out and they're not even giving us the opportunity to bid on them anymore because they've been productized and they've been created as almost like free issue equipment." So they're like, how do we start creating more products so that we're bidding for this like almost like equipment, lots of these things. And it happened to me right before I walked up on stage for MEP Force. And I think that is happening more and more. We're seeing more and more of these subcontractors that have already, they have a fabrication process. They're thinking about products they're making at scale now that are more product based than they are like after the fact prefab. That's happening a lot. I think more and more, even this year we have we have sort of a boot camp 101 for people that know nothing about prefab. So we're doing that this year for the first time ever in case it's your first year at the show because we have so many new people. But I think, that for MEP contractors, first of all, you're going to learn from your peers some of the best stuff that's out there. You're going to hear from the owners what they really want and what the partners are that they're picking and why. And you're going to get in front of those GCs that are desperately looking for you to do business with. I mean, like that's what's so important. I asked one of my GC friends the other day, I'm like, "Hey, like if you talked about what you got out of this last year," he's like, "We got all our subs from that show, every single one of them." And I was like, fantastic. Like, that's what I love to hear. You know what I mean? Like, we want people to find these great MEP contractors and other contractors that are doing all the best things that they've been learning,
Yeah. Yeah. And in a time where it's like, it could be hard to find the good resources, right? And
Yeah.
to be able to find people that align with your values is so, so
Yeah.
valuable.
And what's so great about it, David? Like, you could fall over business there on your way to the bathroom. Like, it's like, that is like, it's not like in Vegas where there's like 8,000 acres and like you're trying to hunt down somebody. I mean, like, you could find every single person there in the main stage room at the breakfast, at the speed dial. We always do speed networking every year. It's not hard to find these people that you want to find at this show. They're relatively self-contained. And like, every one of these speakers is like willing to talk to people, willing to go. We have those market specific days at the end. If you're really into data centers or really into manufacturing, really into healthcare, we've made it like easier and easier every year for you to find the people you're trying to do business with. Like, that's what I'm like, literally, it's like you're falling over business at that place.
Yeah. It's been, even for us, it's been a great way to find people that align with, our values, which, we are trying to help these contractors prefab more, do things, build buildings more profitably and give them more visibility into their operation. So it's like, and what we found is, our type of customer is at Advancing Prefab.
Right.
So it's
by the way, the GCs are looking for MEP contractors that have the technology now, right? So you may have heard me talking about this maturity assessment that we're doing for industrialized construction with Haley and Aldrich. They're looking for subs. They're looking for MEP contractors that have integrated technology into their fabrication process. 100% that is part of the maturity assessment. So the exhibitors that are there are that's why they're there doing that, because this is a one-stop shop place for people looking for great new trends, lots of business, the right technology that you need to buy in order to get on, the maturity that you want to get to in this space. And it's, again, like all sort of in one easy one-stop shop place. And I think, I don't know, I've been to, believe me, I go to every single show and I don't see any show. I think that's why the show is like this, because like every good thing I've seen from every show, we've put into this show. Everything that I was like, oh, why do we do that? Like I made sure it was never in this show. You know what I mean? Like we want people to do activities inside the exhibit hall. We want people to learn about specific, applications for market applications. We have I don't know if you know this, but the first day during the workshops, I think the tours may all be sold out at this point. There are a few tours maybe still open. We've always wanted to do tours. We do a special VP and above, like CEO type day, like invite only if you want to apply for it. That was a big hit last year where we had a bunch of VPs and CEOs that just wanted to learn in a quiet environment for the day. There is something at this show for everyone. And that's always been important for me. If you're going to spend all this money, you want to get something out of it,
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It really is a show that it's so niche, and whatever, whether you're MEP contractor, you're a doer, you're a manager, you're a leader in the organization, you're a technology company, there definitely is value at Prefab.
It's so exciting for me. I mean, like, honestly, you tell them just like, I want to jump out of my seat. I can't wait for this to happen.
I know. We're excited too. It's one of our favorite shows. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing, just to give us a little bit of a sneak peek? I know you typically speak about trends and things that are coming, and you definitely have that foresight. So what are some of the trends that you see in the industry for 2023?
I definitely think, like over the years, we've talked about things like, I remember the first time I said the words productization and people were like, wow, that was a mouthful. And I was like, now I see it everywhere, right? And then we started talking about, manufacturing informed design as a category. Now I see that everywhere, right? It was like, that's where these things first got launched at these shows and at MEP Force, right? Like where I've always been a fan to come and talk at those. I think last year we talked a little bit around expected experience, like what are all these new technologies that are out there today? How are we going to use those the way we use things in our daily life? And how are we going to apply them to our business life to make our businesses better with that same expected experience? So I think, we talked a little bit about data. I'm going to say this year it's going to be around owning that data and understanding that data for yourself to move further left in the process. And also a big, huge topic is around sustainability this year. In fact, like we're going to be doing a live research session where we're going to be educating and actually asking some questions with some real results up on screen around the topics of sustainability and data and, cross-industry workflows. That's a really big deal these days. It's not enough to just sort of live in your little part. You've got to really understand what you make and the data that you own in order to influence the other parts of the ecosystem for your benefit and for the project's benefit and actually like for the world's benefit around sustainability. So I know that was a lot in like what we're going to talk about this year, but I see a lot of those kind of topics, running around this year.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important. And even like the sustainability, like when you think about the amount of waste, that, it's wild. And, I think it's like in the past, we that's how it was done, but now it doesn't have to be done that way. And I think that especially with prefab, that it helps with that process.
Like that's the thing, like, 40% of what's in our landfills is construction waste. I think somebody told me the other day, my friend from, Andrew Renner from Boma told me 1/6 is drywall waste, right, in the landfills.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine any other thing that you buy on this planet if we knew that you were going to buy whatever and we said, guess what? We have a 40% waste factor and it goes right in the landfill. You wouldn't buy that product ever, right?
Yeah.
You would never, like, it would be on the news. We wouldn't be buying it. We'd all be boycotting it. Like, it would never happen. And yet that is like standard practice.
Yeah.
And so we have to start looking about how we're designing things to design out some of this waste. By the way, on the sustainability side, it's not just about energy and carbon. It's going to be about resiliency of these buildings and reuse of these buildings. I mean, it's a whole new world now. So
Yeah.
I think like we've got to expand our minds about what, the expected experience we want to have from our world and how we participate in that as contractors or as designers or as owners. I think that's really important that we start applying the same rules to our work life that we do to our everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I loved the example you've used, work life to everyday life, Amazon example, like the ability to just go to the store, on Amazon, just, it's so easy to buy things and buy
Right.
some experience. And it's like, you see in most industries, it's like that. It goes from industry to industry to industry. And it's here today in construction. There's so much software out there that gives you capabilities like that. And I think, it's just a matter of time where everybody's using that, or the majority of people are.
I think that's true. I mean, look, that's sort of a softball to me. At Autodesk, we are a design make platform. That's been what we've talked about, moving from product to platform. And when I think about that, I'm like, okay, that's great. Because at the end of the day, when I think about all those other platform companies, they gave us something of value, right? So, Facebook, now Meta, gave us connection, they gave us community, and Amazon gave us, the power to buy and e-commerce as a category and a subject. Google gave us answers, and we've got a lot of things out there. Apple, I always say, gave me like, accessibility. I didn't have to be a computer programmer to like use my phone and things like that. I think, right now in our space, one of the great things about being a design make platform where we are, that, and with partners like yourself and others, that people want that same expected experience. They want that same ease of use. Like I always say, I use my phone and it probably takes me 15 apps to get from here to the restaurant tonight, but I don't know who owns which app. And I just know I have an Apple phone, and I know magically I get to the restaurant, and it's pretty easy, right? So I feel like, that's the world that we're moving towards now. And I think, again, that is how we should want it to be. That's our expectation of how we should look at things to be, that almost like magic, quote unquote, you're able to move across these different silos that exist today. One day it'll be just like how you use your phone to go to the restaurant. You know what I mean? That's my hope. That's what I think this show moves us towards. I think technologies like yours, working with us, move us towards that direction. It's really important that we start having a different expected experience, right?
Yeah, I love that. And it's like we truly live in like such an amazing time that, even you look at like 30 years ago and 40 years ago, none of this, really, we couldn't even really imagine. And now it's like one of the greatest times, right? For building things with, more effectiveness and all that. So
I know. By the way, I am still writing my own posts. I'm not using ChatGPT to write my own posts and articles these days. Like, who knows? I have lots of friends that are doing that now, and I'm like reading about that, or they're using it to look over contracts, or they're looking at like, look where we're at right now. The days of like, by the way, just based on that conversation, should you have to call somebody to call somebody to call somebody to call somebody to see if your critical piece of equipment is showing up on the job site? Like, listen, should you have to literally be doing things on paper at this point, knowing that, like, I don't even know if my friends' posts are real anymore, if it's really them. So, like, let's be, by the way, and if it is them, there's like supercharged by some of the cool technologies that are out there. So maybe it's part them, part technology. So again, like, we have to really start stepping up our game in this built environment to do that. And I honestly think like this is one of the few shows where we're talking like that to the guys and gals that are actually building stuff and designing stuff and buying things,
Yep, that's great. All right. Well, and last question, what do you hope attendees will take away from this event?
I mean, I always say I'm a capitalist, not a feminist, as most people think. I'm like, money, 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 money. Make some business connections and get some great business out of this. That is what I think this show has really been known for, is that you can't walk out of there without some great business. That's my number one thing I hope they take away from it.
Well, that's an awesome takeaway. I love that. So, and that's why we go. So
yeah,
thank you so much for your time. This has been great. And I will see you, viewer, at Advancing Prefab.
I will see you there too.
Big thanks to Amy for coming on the podcast, and thank you, listener, for listening to this episode. Any questions or want to join me on a podcast? Email us at marketing@evolvemep.com. And once again, thank you to Amy Marks from Autodesk, and I'll see you next time.